Hi, my name's Abby Michaelbust, and I'm the volunteer coordinator for the U of I Sustainability Center. And today I'm going to be showing you how to make a bee hotel. So first things first, as to why bee hotels are even important. So bee hotels serve as a nesting place for a species of bees called mason bees. They're very different from honeybees though. Honeybees, of course, make honey, they live in hives, and they're also a non-native species to the US. Mason bees, however, do not make honey, and they're known as a solitary bee, which means that they work alone. And they're a native species that are amazing pollinators and much better than a honeybee is. So they work much better for pollinating gardens and farms. So essentially how mason bees use these bee hotels is it's full of stems and tubes from plants. You can use bamboo, you can use teasel, you can even use straws if you want. But they essentially nest within these tubes, and when they go in, they plant an egg and they leave some pollen in it, and they build up a mud wall using mud and other various resources around that they found in the garden. And so they build up this mud wall essentially that has the egg within it. And then eventually that egg, when it's ready to hatch and ready for season, it'll hatch, break through that mud wall, and go about its days. And so essentially, it serves as a temporary home for the mason bees' eggs to rest and have a safe and protected area. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool because not only does all of the mason bees' eggs come in here, but you can fit multiple ones in each tube. And so that wall kind of serves as like a little door that they can open through, but also it allows for protection for each one. So it's pretty cool. So let's get into how to actually build this. So today we're going to be building a rectangular bee hotel. You can build these of different sizes and shapes, but ours is essentially 7 inches deep and is rectangular, as you can see. So this is what the final product will look like. Nothing too crazy, but if you want, you can also customize them at the end. So here are the supplies you're going to need to build this. So first, you're going to need 1x4 pieces of pine or cedar wood, or any sort of wood you have lying around that could work and hold it together for a while. So we pre-measured and cut everything and pre-drilled holes just to make this process a little easier. So what you're going to do is you're going to have one piece of the 1x4 wood be about 8 inches long. And so this will essentially serve as the roof that will help protect the egg larvae from any sort of weathering and protect it from rain, wind, and all sorts of stuff. So you're going to need one piece that's 8 inches deep, and then you're going to need 3 pieces that are 7 inches deep. These will serve as the other walls of the bee hotel. Along with this, you're going to need about a 1/4 inch piece of press board. This one's just really light and durable. It works really well, but you can also use any sort of thin, reliable piece of wood that you would like, but we found that press board works the best as it's light and really durable. So you're also going to need some screws. And so the screws that we used are 1 1/4 sheetrock and deck screws. They work really well to keep the wood from splitting worse, and that's also what pre-drilled holes help with, just to prevent any sort of splitting that could happen with the wood. So you'll need roughly 8 screws for that. And then you're also going to want 4 3/4 inch wood nails. They're really small, but they work great for holding that press board to the rest of the bee hotel. So as you can see, they're really tiny, but you'll need about 4 of those just to secure it. And then of course, you're going to need some form of tube or stem that the bees will nest in. And this part's really important. So we are using teasel for ours, which is an invasive species from Europe. And we found this at Philip's farm here in Moscow. They were very generous. Since it's an invasive species from Europe, they're more than happy to have you collect this, and so it didn't take much to build all this. If you have some wood laying around and you can just pick some teasel out of your backyard or even at Philip's farm, it works great, and it's a really cost-effective way to help the environment. Yeah, so we'll be using teasel stems, and these are cut about 7 inches or so, and so those we'll put into the bee hotel at the end, as you can see in our prototype. So those are all the supplies you're going to need, and along with the teasel, we also have some straws as well. So these ones are just compostable straws. They just serve as a different variety of size for the bee hotel. And it just allows for different mason bee species to fit. You can also, if you don't want to use teasel or don't have it and don't have straws, you can also use bamboo reeds and other sorts of hollow stems from plants. Essentially, as long as it's hollow, like you can see here, and isn't terribly small, you can use it for this. Alright, so let's get into how to actually make these. So the way that we did this to help with confusion is we marked the back of each of these pieces of woods with markers so that way we can line it up when we have it all ready. So you're just going to want to get that all lined up and ready to go. So as you can see, we have some lines here, and we're just matching those up. And so you'll just want to do this with all of this. And as you can see, we have some pre-drilled holes, like I said before. That just helps us make it a little smoother to go in, and it keeps from cracking happening within the wood. So the tools that you will need for this as well is some sort of drill if your wood is not pre-drilled. If it is, you're going to need a screwdriver like we have here. And then you're also going to need a hammer for hammering in those little nails. But that's all you'll need tool-wise. So once you have this lined up and pretty ready to go, then you're just going to take your sheetrock and deck screws and you're going to drill them and have holes. As you can see, this one has 6, but you can just use 4 just to keep it sturdy and make sure that all holds together. But you'll want to drill one in the corner, one here, and one here. And this will serve to keep it sturdy on the ends that are necessary. And you'll want to do the same with all the others. And so you'll essentially just drill 4 holes and screw those in on the top and the bottom. So now we've jumped ahead and screwed in all the screws needed to keep it sturdy. So as you can see, this is where you'll want to screw in each one, just so that it's secure to the ends of each of these side pieces. And as you can see in the back, where we had all the lines, they all line up more or less, so that each color is connected to one another. So now the structure is built and ready to go. And you want to make sure it's nice and sturdy, it's not loose in any way, and that those screws are tight, but not too tight to where they're going to crack the wood. And if you do want to make it more secure, as you can see, here are 2 other pre-drilled holes of where you can put 2 more screws to secure it if you want a little bit more security. So now since that's done, we're going to put the back piece onto the back of it. So what you're going to do is take your press board and put it on the back where your lines are matched up, or if you don't have lines, where the flat bit is, where the little roof is not sticking out. And you'll want to kind of line it up and make sure it's mostly secure. It might be a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, but as long as it's covering this hole and you're able to nail it into the wood, that's all that matters. So you're going to line it up, and then on each of the corners, similar to how we built and screwed in the wood, you're going to take a nail, one of your small nails, and you're going to hammer it in. So now we have the nails all hammered into the back of this press board, and now the back is secure and ready to go for the back of our bee hotel, and the full structure is now done. So as you can see, we just put 4 little nails on each of those corners. They're a little difficult to see, but those will just keep it in place and make sure that this back isn't going to pop off during any weathering and can hold for a long time. So now that we have the structure all built, now we get to put in our teasel into the thing. So for the bee hotel, the best way to get it is you want these teasel sticks to be in as tight as possible. If not, sometimes wrens and other birds can pull them out, and they like to use the bee hotels as nests, which, I mean, I guess it's still helping the environment, but it's best to keep the bee hotels for the bees and not the birds. So you're just going to take your teasel and just line it up in here, and it's fine if some overlap as long as they are not completely over this roof and are still covered. And so you just want to line it up until you have it all tight in there. Now that all your teasel stems are in your bee hotel, it should look something like this. As you can see, I trimmed some of mine down so that way that most of them are sticking within or are barely sticking out like this one. They should be in there very tight so that way they can't pop out rather easily, and that wrens can't pull them out as well. So once you have those all put in, your bee hotel is now ready to go. If you want, you can customize it, as bees do like pretty colors similar to flowers, that bright and vibrant color. But if you want, you can happily leave it like this. The best place to put a bee hotel is roughly 4 to 5 feet off the ground, and you can either hammer it and stake it into a post hanging around, like near your garden, or if you want, you can put it on a tree. It just depends on what works best for you and what's the most stable, that this won't get hurt or fall down or hurt the bees as well. You will want to keep maintenance with it, as other insects can take over and can infest it, such as paper wasps. And once you have that, it can be really detrimental to the bees. So you want to make sure about every other season, after spring or after summer's done and right before spring, you want to make sure to have these cleaned out and ready to go. You can either trade out the teasel, or if you want, you can take a pipe cleaner and clean it out that way. Along with being about 4 to 5 feet off the ground, another great idea to have is to have it facing the sun or putting it about southeast facing. This just allows, it's a little bit better for the bees and they're more likely to be attracted to it. If you want to do more research on it, there are lots of great resources online to look at. If you're having questions and you want to talk to us personally, feel free to email uisc-volunteers@uidaho.edu. Thank you.